Rain's coming into Bali. The benefits of creativity. Creativity benefits. Whether you're trying to make an audience for yourself or connect with like minds from around the world, it's never been easier to distribute the fruits of your creativity. You know, it's about more than a means to an end. Creativity, producing, means you're drawing out something that was latent before, unexpressed. It's an exercise in you actually becoming more than you've ever been. I had a great conversation the other day with a good friend of mine, Meg, where we talked about the feeling of fulfillment of being on the creative path, and also shared notes as to, frankly, how I think neither of us feel like we're creating quite enough. I felt some exhilaration by the end of it. It felt like an affirmation to me of just how important creativity is in my life. And we hope that you find a nugget or two in this conversation that'll help propel you further down the path of being an active creator. Thanks a lot for watching, and please do enjoy. Hey there, this is Tom from wagefreedom.com, and I'm here with my friend, Dr. Meg Ahern, and we were speaking the other day. We're a couple of people who we think of ourselves as creators. We do create things. We've got a rough idea of where we want to go with the things that we do create. We enjoy creation per se as well. We're both writers. Video is something I know I'm enjoying doing, and I think it's going to be part of Meg's future as well. Yeah. But the thing was, when we were speaking the other day, Meg, we hit on something that we realized that it might have sort of general appeal, which is, you know, we've got a rough idea of where we want to go with our creation, and you know, and we like doing it and all the rest. Why aren't we creating as much as we should be? You know, and you would think, well, why wouldn't you be doing the thing that makes you feel maybe the best? You think, you know, in the world, the best activity for you to do. Why don't I do that more often? But we're going to describe our experience of this and this sort of stuck feeling. But we also have, and if you stay to the end of this video, we between us have come up with several different ways to think about this sort of barrier to being more prolific, creating more, whatever you want to call it. And just to be clear, this is not just for, you know, writers or people who want to make videos. This is, you know, whatever in the world your interest might be. You know, there's a benefit nowadays, in my opinion, to we live in times where, you know, it takes nothing more than the device you have in your hand to really, you know, get started sharing your, you know, opinions or thoughts on anything under the sun, whether it's, you know, how to live life better or how to fix motorcycles or, you know, anything that you've got. I think a lot of folks are tempted to create more and put some of themselves out into the world. And my opinion is that we live in a time where it's so easy to do this, and there are a ton of benefits to doing it. That if you've been tempted, this conversation might have some value for you. But sorry, Meg, maybe you want to start with our conversation the other day, or however you'd like to get started. To be honest.
We were just talking and got on this topic of we have these passion projects that we think of as as Tom put it, purpose with a capital P, like just what is sort of most important for us to do with our lives, or what we think of as not even in a sense of a vocation, as in a career, but in a sense of what sort of defines what we're about as people, or what we want to contribute, right? And for me, there's a website that I've been working on for years, but very slowly. I've just started to dip my feet in some other creative areas as well. But basically, there's other work that I do, but I do have a decent amount of free time. If I were really organized and, applied myself, I could be doing a lot more than I am. And this website that I've started, for example, and that in particular, it's been years since I've really made progress on it, even though I'm wild about it. I love the concept, and so when we started talking about, well, why is it that these things that we're so passionate about are not things that we're actually spending more time on, we realize it's actually kind of a trickier question than you would think. At least for me, it's actually hard to become aware of what is going into this. And I found our conversation really helpful because for me, it's about figuring out what are the obstacles between me and the passion project so that I can spend more time doing what it is that I love, which was always the goal.
Sure. I mean, one commonality, I guess, we hit on was this idea that we're trained as we go through school and maybe become employees, an entirely different sort of incentive system of incentives than saying, look, I've got these ideas or these interests that I'm fleshing out myself. I'm thinking about, and I do like, writing about them or making videos about them or whatever. But my goodness, I mean, why would I even think these things? It has nothing to do with, the person I've always been, the occupation by which I might define myself, or my major in school, or, why do I even why am I even tempted to do something that may possibly have nothing to do with, the person you've been up until this point,
Right. And also, like, I think for me, an obstacle is the uncertainty of not knowing, well, who's going to see this? How's it going to do? What's the impact really going to be? All of that, you just can't know ahead of time when you're working on it. And I think that's really tough. And as you point out, it's really different from the sort of the traditional kind of factory work model that we're trained to do.
Yeah. So it really takes a sort of not just a mindset shift, I think, but you have to sort of integrate it more fully into your life. You have to make sort of new habits. There isn't any boss telling you that the assignment's not due at the end of next week.
Right.
In school.
Right.
This takes a certain ability to be a self-starter, however you want to put it. You have to decide it's a thing that you want to do. You want to. It's a book or whatever it is. It's 2 blog posts a week. Whatever in the world it might be. A video once a week. You have to decide that. Look, I'm going to have to be the catalyst for action here, and that's something that a lot of us absolutely were not trained from an early age to be, to have as part of our larger MO. It's so, and just and I think there's some self-doubt that creeps in immediately when you realize that it's you who will have to be the self-starter, because where's your credential about that this thing, this passion project that you've got in mind and maybe have had in mind since you were 12 years old? Well, maybe you didn't, maybe you did, but maybe you didn't go to school for it. Maybe you didn't ever have it in any sort of a professional sense. It wasn't what you were doing. Who gives you the right to who why would you be a person whose opinion on this topic or these topics matter whatsoever? So, to get beyond that, to say, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know who's going to give me the right to proceed, but I think tentatively I'm going to be the person who's going to give me that right. And we're just going to see where this goes, you're never going to present yourself as like the world's authority on the meat and potatoes of your passion project.
well, you might, I guess you could, but you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
To say something that has value to other people, but just as much has a value to yourself in terms of bringing something out of yourself, right?
Right.
Just go ahead and arbitrarily decide that you're enough not even an authority, just your opinion is worthy enough,
Mm-hmm.
to be expressed, right?
Yeah.
And to go ahead and start that YouTube channel, or do those blog posts, or whatever it's going to be for you, right? But these are not easy decisions to make. I think they're necessary to proceed, but they're not easy. I think even if you've been producing for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And it's a good point that you make. Most people, maybe everyone, deals with imposter syndrome in some way. And but your points are so good that it's about contributing your own perspective, and knowing that the way in which the things you think about and the way that you articulate them, those are going to be compelling to certain people. And it doesn't matter if you have a degree or whatever your background is. And I know that's true for me. I imagine it may be for you as well. When I think about the people who inspire me the most and who I most enjoy following, and I really love their creative work, it really enriches my life. One has a PhD in sociology, another one never went to college. One has 20 years in this field, the other one just picked it up last year, but is great at it. And it seems really quite unrelated. As it's more the resonance that grows up between the creator and their audience. So
that's right. And parenthetically, I don't think there's anything wrong with us, having this interest in this thing that we'd like to examine more and sort of get out into the world, sort of as, expression unto itself is a nice way to live. I think it's a productive way to live, even if nobody is really buying into it for right now. It's just creation per se, I think, is a healthy thing. My own opinion. But if you want to combine that with a desire to, whatever we're calling it, build an audience or whatever nowadays, it's probably a bit of both. Maybe I think that there are absolutely legit ways to proceed, no matter what your motivation for sort of living this life or living life this way in a creative sense. Whatever your, however whatever you think is a good reason to proceed, just go with it. Have faith in yourself, your message, and there's a good chance you won't even know what that message is going to be a month or a year from now, exactly what form it'll take. That's part of the reason for just getting it out there anyway, just get it, right? Just get it out there.
Right. And related to that, I really like your point about how I think you said something like, creating is just a healthy way to live. And that's helpful for me. I have no audience at this point. So, for me, it really is that at this point, just a way to live. And I think it's also a way, whether you're doing it with or without a large audience, it's a way of getting to know yourself and your own ideas, and sort of encountering your own soul in that creative space. And so I think of it as both a way to contribute to the world, maybe to define a career, maybe just to find some way of helping people who have been in your position and could benefit, could find inspiration or instruction or just company in what you have to give. And then it's also a way of kind of getting to know yourself better while you're here.
That's right. It really does hit on a few different levels. There are such valid reasons. Man, I don't really know of any arguments against it, to be honest with you. I suppose for some people it might be, because what are the alternatives? Having a beer and watching football on TV. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I would just say, and maybe me and you are biased, but if you've been tempted to create, please feel encouraged. Please feel enough sort of agency to proceed, because it almost on some level doesn't even matter, the quality of what you produce or anything else, just, because it's always going to it's going to resonate with some people. It's always it'll always, in a way, I don't want to say get better, but it'll get more, I think it'll get more it'll develop, right? As you yourself develop, your ideas, and as a creator,
there's I don't know if you've noticed this. My partner and I like to watch TV shows together and kind of critique them and everything, and we notice how often in a show, Parks and Recreation is a great example of this. They start off, they've got the first season mapped out, and then they kind of find themselves. They find the characters as they go. And then by a couple seasons in, it's kind of a different show, and the characters are really driving it. And none of the writers probably knew that was coming when they were pitching the pilot, but through the process of creation, these ideas kind of articulate themselves. And what more exciting thing than to get to do that with yourself over the course of a creative career.
Right. And in your own life. I mean, it's impossible to overstate where this can look. You don't have to have write a bestseller or have 1 million people sort of on your email list to really have new doors open in your life, for your life to become something different, something more, and in my opinion, something better than wherever it is you're sitting right now. So, and you cannot have any idea what that will be. You can't, because these ideas, these people, these offers to do things or whatever it might be, they come completely out of the blue once you will have the faith to get in there and produce, to create. It's an excellent analogy of this idea. We're given more, these writers are given more seasons, I think, with these TV shows, and they may not even expected that, but damn sure they'll come up with some interesting ideas about what to do with season 4, season 5, etc. You've been given this life, you're still breathing, and it would just be, and I think very few people are sort of, in a place that's identical to where you were 5, 10, 20 years ago. Things proceed. Isn't creation, or can't part of the function of it be to sort of redefine whatever your future might have been, to make it fuller and make it also more in alignment with whoever you potentially are today, and you aren't that person yet, but you'd like to be. You'd like to grow into a different, life, and a different person. Something, I hate to say the word better, but if it's a product of your own growth and your own ideas and interests, to me, it really does sound like that is a better life. Than where you might be sitting today. And I mean, I've met you probably, I don't know, have you met people yourself, Meg? That they have a story, or they have an attitude, and they may, writing it down or making videos be the last damn thing that they'd ever think about doing. And yet sometimes these people are exactly the folks that should sort of get it out there. I should say, not only would the world benefit from their attitudes or stories or whatever it might be, but they themselves, you can just see how, whether it's like you've got a book in you, or a story that needs to be told, or an attitude that should really be out there more, because it would resonate with folks. I just think that so many people have this this capacity in them, and again, creativity broadly can be such a it's probably the way to approach it. Just get it out there, right?
Right. And as you point out, like it's a form of self-determination as well as um a way of getting to know oneself better. And I love something that you said when we were talking is you said that your passion project is something that if you told me I couldn't work on it, I'd fight you, is how you put it. And I'd love to hear more about that because it really resonates with me.
Yeah, if you told me I couldn't sort of create around ideas around this or develop these ideas because they're so central to who I am and what I think, and this is the way that I really should go creatively. It's by asking yourself, what would you just feel revolted, by if somebody told you, no, you can't create around this idea. What would that idea be? What would you, if somebody said, that's a way of defining, I guess, for yourself, what your passion project should be or what your direction should be, and I think, that could be helpful to define it, and possibly also as a way to draw it more actively out of yourself as well.
And I think another thing that strikes me about the idea of creation as a way of getting to know oneself or express oneself, and what really I found so compelling about the way you put, if you told me I couldn't do it, I would fight you, is the sense that it's an essential part of you. Your ability to create or your ability to explore your own perspective is an essential part of you. And it makes me think of that there's that book a few years ago, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And the first one was, people would say, I wish that I had the courage to live a life that was really mine. Like, I wish I had the courage to express my true self, rather than just kind of falling in line with what I thought everyone expected of me, which is a poignant thing to consider, that that's actually what most people regret on their deathbeds. It makes me think about how essential it is to start to get some traction on the idea of like, well, how do I not only express who I really am and what I really think in a world that is telling me to just conform, but also how do I even know what that is, and how do I know who this person really is if you strip away kind of all the social conditioning and everything. And I think in some ways, I think one thing that can be said about creative work is that for most people it's terrifying. It sure is for me, especially putting it out into the world where people can see and critique it. And in a way, maybe you can think of that terror, the scary side of creating as kind of a way of, like, it can be a catalyst for helping us to draw out what is really ours. What's within us that's really uniquely our own, and not just what we were socialized to be, because we actually do have to fight that fear in order to draw it out. So, like, what's worth fighting for?
That's right. We talk about, well, what we might actually produce, but this process of letting yourself be drawn out is such a, it's almost enough in itself to push one forward, I think, because it just feels like, the difference between putting it out, it's really a process of becoming for yourself. It's not just, I became a person who wrote 7 books. It's, I had all these ideas lying dormant in me, latent potentials, that just weren't well, you might have a nice, great conversation with a friend, and that's always great. And, you might touch on these things, but I don't know, again, maybe it feels just a little more, there's nothing wrong with that, but you can make it sort of a little more solid, and certainly more, I hate to use the word in a way, distribution, but these ideas will have validity, and to maybe a lot more people than you'd ever imagine. So as you yourself get on, go further down this path, you really can help people, and whatever the topic could be too. And it's there's just no losing element to that picture, is there?
Absolutely.
For you, for other people. And the idea, well, this little mind thing, and we touched on this when we were talking, this idea, I was thinking, I thought an interesting idea for a movie one time would be, I won't get off on a tangent, I promise, but this idea that, you think about people in your life, creators, musicians or writers or whoever that you respect, who've really changed your life for the better, actually, right? And what if those folks had not at some point arbitrarily decided, because they didn't get a publishing deal or a music deal first and then start creating. There was a decision at some point that, from Bob Dylan to Lady Gaga to whoever you want to mention, where they decided, I've got something in me that's worthy of putting out there. And, I'm going to go, play piano at the Smoky Bar, or whatever form that took initially. The relevant thing there, I think, is the decision that was made. Completely arbitrary. Maybe nobody in their life possibly was standing behind them, pushing them, encouraging them.
Could be the opposite.
I think with most people, it sort of is. But, what if these folks had never, made that arbitrary decision? A lot of them very young as well, by the way, still teenagers, right? Identified with artists that they held, dear to themselves, and said, that's me, and I'm going all, if not all in. I'm going to really, really, I'm going to produce. I'm going to try. I'm going to see where this leads me. Just see where it leads me. Just run on faith. That movie idea briefly was, what if you could get 3 or 4 people? What if you could get Bono, as a gas station attendant, at 60 years old, who is always singing while he works, and you sort of came across him as a guy and you recognize him as Bono, and he never clearly made that. He had the potential, but never made that commitment. Then you know what I mean? It's just this idea. Wouldn't it almost be a shocking, deeply sad idea? You may not be a fan of U2's music, but you get the idea. Whoever you hold dear to yourself, what if they hadn't made that decision when they were 13, or when they were 23? That if I have some years where I'm not successful, I'm going to pay this price to put myself out there, and now you look at them and they've got all the trappings of success and everything else. But guess what? They've also got you don't respect them because they are rich. You respect them because there's some kernel to what they produced in whatever medium that made your life a bigger, better place. Your life, our lives as part of their audience, a bigger, better place, right? And you deeply appreciate that, right?
When I think about the people who wrote books that kind of saved my life, or create podcasts that give me genuinely a larger, more joyful perspective, it makes me crazy if I think about what if they never did it, and what if I never met their work or their perspective. And if I think about them,
a genuine tragedy, right? Like an actual living tragedy would be, right? Like the world would be less.
The world would be less. And I think you use the word profane to describe the image of, my hero, my favorite author, just kind of filing papers in a clerical job. for the rest of her days. Profane really seems like the word for that. Like, it makes me kind of angry just to
That's
think of
right.
that.
But really, it should, because this idea that, I mean, it almost brings me to tears. This idea that, because the implication clearly is that who the hell knows who you are and who I am and who anybody watching this, until we do make that decision, and a series of decisions. Because it's not just about, I'm going to write this article I've got in my head, not even fleshed out, or I'm going to make this video, or whatever it might be. There are 100 reasons not to do it, I suppose. But man, unless you do it, you are potentially restricting yourself and the world from really truly being less than who you might be, and a million other people out there who could hear your message and get something from it, and for whom their lives would be genuinely changed as well, potentially. No one can sit there and go, no, I don't have a message that's worthy of that sort of worthy of getting out there, or worthy of an audience that big, or whatever. You do not know that, and you will not know until you try. But that makes it sound like I'm posing that as a motivational factor to take action, and I'm not really. I'm just saying that if you're 18-year-old Bob Dylan, write the song, and just even don't even imagine where it leads. We'll deal with that later. Just please have a policy of creation. This policy of creation is the thing that you as an individual deserve to bestow on yourself, and that potentially the world also could thank you for the rest of your life. And the latter, the latter doesn't have to be the whole motivational factor. I suppose I think we're on the same page as far as that goes. It's not. This can be entirely internally directed, and and should start as such. But that's all.
Absolutely. That's well said.
We are all for sure more than we have ever shown, and how would you show more? Is somebody going to invite you to write the book or give the speech, or is that going to happen before you put out, in essence, by being yourself and producing, putting out what amount to sort of little feelers, and then it sounds very calculated if you're not careful, but I don't mean it this way.
Right.
You're just putting it out there because this is who you are. And just see what happens, and if nothing happens, at least you put it out there.
Absolutely. And you yourself can benefit from that. But I've also heard it said, you
will.
And I've also heard it said you have an obligation. You have something that you can contribute to the world. You actually have an obligation to do that.
Definitely to yourself. If you are at all tempted, even sometimes, it may not be something that's on your mind a lot, but if you've ever been tempted to create anything, that's a sign that you probably should be, right? And
I think so.
We don't need to bring out any external, force to either prod you or validate any effort. Just do it. That's all.
That's well said. Hey, we're back with different outfits on a different day. We decided to make this a two-part conversation. So check out the link below to see the other video where we share 12 methods for getting past these kinds of hurdles.
And we would love to know your experience too. If you've been trying to create more video, writing, whatever, let us know in the comments what your experience is, and this problem of being stuck. Whether or not you've found any methods to get deal with it or get through it or not. Just we'd love to hear any feedback that you have for us. Thanks very much for watching.
Thanks.